interesting. When I go to intro Leandro, I was going to describe him as the best dressed man in TA. Whenever I've seen him in person, he's always dressed very well. But
Not
right
today.
now, I don't know if I can say that given Jason's outfit right now.
That's true. I actually want to know where I can get one.
Coming
That's
soon.
very coming very, very soon. Yes.
Okay, we should be live. Hey everyone, we've got 60, 70 people. People are joining. Just drop a hello in the chat. Let us know you can hear us. Let us know who you are, where you're joining from. Would be great to connect with some folks. While everyone's joining, a few weeks ago, we did a little call to action for folks to like subscribe to our newsletter, but also hit reply because we were landing in junk. Like that's worked really well. So I want to take a second to thank everyone. And maybe just do a little segment on the newsletter. So every week we're delivering kind of the latest AI news, comes out on Monday. Jason, what was your favorite story from the week? Should we do?
Yeah, no, it's funny. So I saw this interesting like subject come through my inbox and clicked on it. I was like, oh, and then I realized it was our newsletter. So it actually worked on me. The thing I liked about it, there was a thing in there from, Mr. HR Burson, and he was talking about how AI is leading toward the birth of the full stack HR professional, kind of like a la, full stack developer, and how you're starting to see things like talent blend into talent management, blend into workforce planning. And I, for one, am very pro the full stack HR professional. So whatever we can do to push toward that, I'm down for it.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think there's another one as well with the OpenAI and Indeed, and they were talking about how they've got the AI team, but they need the knowledge on the use cases. So like going to every vertical to understand like how to build things right. So everyone is really like the subject matter expert and the context which goes into these kind of AI tools, which we're going to get on to today with Leandro. So today's session is all about building your own outreach assistant. Leandro's done this several times at different companies with some amazing results, which we'll get into as well. But as well as like giving a framework and a step-by-step process so you can build your own outreach assistant at the end of this session, like we're really going to get into Leandro's mindset of like how he starts from scratch to be able to build a custom GPT, gem, whatever it is. So really you can take it and apply it to any use case, outreach, whatever it may be. So really excited to get onto that. We'll go to Leandro and intro him properly soon. Before we do, just want to take a moment for Kula, who are very kindly sponsoring this session. Clearly growing very quickly because we've got Connor from Kula who's flying all around the country in the US right now. But yeah, Kula, so AI native ATS, right? Like not a current ATS layering AI on top, but building from the ground up with AI. So yeah, give us an intro to Kula, Connor. We're keen to learn a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been around 3 years, but actively selling, in the last 12 months or so, just over that. So since that, we scaled to just over 100 customers. And you nailed it right on the head. We're a native AI company from the start. Where we're seeing a lot of traction is, with the advancements with AI, these legacy systems are just bolting it on, and it's creating more, manual works and disconnected tools and fragmented workflows all around. And that's really where we're seeing a lot of, customers coming to us is, it's the way the technology is changing, it's almost creating more of a disconnected feel when you have all these advancements. And our platform, it's everything built into the system from day one. So like the sourcing, the outreach, the AI note taker, it's really alleviating a lot of like the manual admin side of it.
Awesome. And like any kind of companies this is working best for? Is it for early stage companies? Any kind of company? Like who's the target market?
Yeah, I mean, it's any modern recruiting teams. Our ICP is anything like 1,000 employees down. We are working with like startups that are creating their TA function from day one, but also more senior level ones that are looking to replicate, what was already in stone.
Awesome. Well, we're gonna have to get you back on for the full demo.
Yeah, I apologize. I had to fly to San Francisco, so don't have my setup, running through the demos, but, happy to, give everyone a full, run through the platform anytime.
Awesome. Well, we'll post the link. We've got a link that you sent us where folks can
Mhm.
learn a little bit more on the website, right? Anywhere
Yep.
else you'd recommend folks to go, or is it like through the
Yeah,
website?
I can put a couple links in the chat here. I have a couple walkthrough scenarios that, shows like the capabilities of like the different functions in there. So I can certainly drop it in there.
Awesome. Yeah, that'd be great. We'll let you go. Don't want to you to miss your flight to join the call, but
Yeah,
let's get a demo planned in for the next few weeks because we'd love to see the
absolutely.
product.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you guys.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Connor.
Connor.
Safe travels, man.
All right. Before we intro Leandro, I want to tell a very quick story on like a recent interaction I had with Leandro. So we were at
Uh-oh.
a positive one, a positive one. So we were at We Are Developers, right? Which I think is like the biggest tech conference in Europe or the world, like 15,000
I think so.
techies
Yeah.
and then 2,000 like HR and TA professionals as of the last few years and iterations. And Leandro was doing a demo similar to what we're going to see today on building like a custom GPT for outreach. And I got to he was the first one of the day, and I got there a little bit early, like 15 minutes before his talk. So I was like, went around the whole, what do you call it, auditorium, see the different vendors, and there was like an F1 simulator, and I was like, oh, I've got time to do the F1 simulator before Leandro's talk. So I did it with Williams, had a great time, arrived like as you started, and that was clearly the wrong call because so many people had turned up to watch Leandro build these custom GPTs. They were queuing around the corner, standing on top of chairs. Like not only had the HR folks turned out, but the tech side and the developers had turned out to come listen to Leandro's demonstration. So I stood there and watched it, but from very far away, and probably should have had some binoculars. So I'm very excited to get a front row seat to the demo today. So I'll hand over to you, Leandro, for a proper intro on who you are. But yeah, I wanted to tell that story.
What an intro. Thanks, Joe. I basically also didn't expect that at We Are Developers. Like they turned out en masse, which was crazy, and especially all the techies that showed up and were very interested in how is HR dealing with technology and incorporating it, right? So I think that was actually my biggest learning is these two worlds are moving towards each other, and not only from our side being TA, being tech, but also the technical folks are being more and more interested in what we're doing and how we can create that symbiosis, right? So yeah, that a little bit from my side, my learning from We Are Dev. So hopefully this year again. What can I say? I have a short introduction inside of the deck today. Basically, my goal will be to have a conversation with you guys live while everyone's watching, explain a little bit the methodology that I use to build something. We'll take the example of the outreach generator, but the same idea and the same way of working can basically be applied to any use case. So hopefully, I would love to know at the end, people in the chat, if this is something that helped you to structure your ideas and to get something working out of it. In the end, we'll also share the actual prompt. So you can play with it, iterate on it, and then share the results with me because I would love to know that as well.
Awesome. Let's do
Yeah.
it. So we're going to start
Cool,
with a deck you're running us through, or Jason?
Yes, we're gonna
on hand?
start with a quick deck. Let me share my screen here. Everyone can see it.
It's just loading. Yeah, we've got it.
So let me hide this. Oh, here we go. So basically, I also made this with Gamma. Most of us know Gamma, I assume. I have to say it has been improving quite a lot lately, and I rediscovered it due to the API integration that you have now, which again you can play around with for tons of use cases. So also maybe just planting some seeds for ideas for people here. So what's my goal for today is by the end of this session, you'll see how a recruitment outreach generator is built. Is this the exact same one I've built out for companies that I've worked at? Not exactly. I would say it's about 30 to 40% there. It's up to you to make it your own. And for me, it's not about necessarily the technology behind it, right? We can make it super fancy and string a lot of data together. But AI for me is also a lot about taste. I don't know how you guys see this, but I always use the Rick Rubin analogy is you have all of these tools, they can create really good things, but you as the user needs to have the taste to understand how good looks like. Do you think that's a fair analogy?
Oh my God, I'm so addicted to Ruben AI like quotes. Like Joe gets them from me all the time. And for those of you that don't know who he is, I mean, he's arguably one of the most successful music producers that doesn't know how to play an instrument.
Yeah.
And I've always found that to be very apropos when it comes to like all his TA folks now vibe code and stuff like that.
It's there's a couple of very cool memes. We should share this with the people after. They'll get it. So quick intro on me. So like, why the hell am I here? So my name's Leandro. I'm from the Netherlands, Amsterdam. I'm currently head of AI operations at a recruitment agency called Nobel Recruitment. I did my best to find out, and a lot of people with me, but it seems like I'm the first head of AI operations, at least to have the title in the country. I even think in Europe. What does head of AI operations mean? It's actually a combination of both, because when I was having a conversation with the founder of Noble, um, I told them we can't just build AI systems. It will fail. We'll have to start building the fundamentals, right? So we have to look at the processes. We have to look at the data. We have to look at quote unquote the boring stuff for some people in order to make AI work in the future. So that's how we combined it. And I've been there for over half a year. Lots of fun, a lot of cool projects, and we're starting to see the business impact of that as well, from closing candidates sooner to actually getting more business in. A lot of things going on. Next to that, one day in the week, I have the AI Laundry, which is where I'm doing AI mentorship, training, and consulting with a few companies, kicking off a new project with BlackRoll tomorrow, which is quite cool. Other than that, I have a TA background. I'm not an engineer. Yes, I was always techie. I was always geeky, building a PC at Note 12. But I went into TA. I loved it. And like most of us, when you don't know what to do, you roll into TA. And I was able to combine throughout my career the use of technology, automations, and later on AI to basically make my job a lot easier. And I'm obviously a loving father of 2 AI natives. So I talk about AI every single day, quite a lot. And like that moment that I had with Joe at We Are Developers, also had tons of these type of interactions with people during conferences and meetups. And this is kind of the vibe that I'm getting from them. Is AI is great, but it's very, very frustrating. They're spending hours. It's not getting them what they want. It feels like some magic box to a lot of people. And that's what I want to remove. I want to remove the magic. I want to give you the tools to be able to make it more predictable, because that's the hard thing about AI. Would you guys agree as well?
Yeah, I would. Can't think of too much else to add, and would completely agree.
Cool. Awesome. It's basically this, right? Shit in, shit out. That's always what I say. If your prompting is not good, your outcome can't be good. But it's not only about prompting, right? There's a lot of other things that we'll discuss throughout this session. Looking at the results, because I like to look at results. AI is not only about experimenting, right? Experimenting is just a stepping stone into building something for production that you can actually use on a day-to-day basis. I started this at Loop Earplugs, the last company I worked at. And there I built it in a custom GPT form, which was the outreach generator. I called it Martha. I was a fan of the show called Baby Reindeer. Hopefully the chat is also familiar. It had a character called Martha, and she was texting quite a lot. So she inspired me. I kind of felt like Martha as a recruiter, texting people all the time, like, do you want to have a conversation with me? So at the time, we were doing quite well. We had a 32% on average response rate across basically, let's say, the average jobs that we were doing. And on average, by introducing Martha, we were able to get that to 60%. Since on average, that's amazing. Made our lives a lot easier. So we basically doubled the response rate. Also very important, we could actually do more in an hour. So I don't like bulk messaging. It's not my thing. I was doing about 5 an hour, well-researched, lots of tabs open. I was able to do 15 all of a sudden. So I doubled the response rate. I could do 3 times more, which meant I had a lot more time in my day. So how can AI be used in general, right? For me, it's very simple. You have input, you have a prompt, you have output. So input is always data, right? In whatever form it can be. The prompt, it could be a prompt for an actual AI agent. Today, we'll show a prompt that you can use in either a custom GPT, a Gemini Gem. Do we need to explain to the audience here what that is? Or do we think?
No, I think most people have seen us use them before, right, in previous sessions, and plus we're going to be building one, right? So they'll see that.
Fantastic,
I think
fantastic. You'll see that.
the thing I would double click on here is like the prompt is not the core input. Like the prompt is the thing you use to like direct and get information like from the inputs to the output, right? It's the bit in between.
Yes.
But like I think
Yes.
the bit, prompting is important, of course, but like the context you're putting in at the start for me is way more important than the actual.
And that's where we're going to get at as well. So this is a very simplified version of the truth, right? Basically, let's just stop here to think about if I step back and look at the work that I've created so far, I see the input as candidate CVs, job descriptions, company details, which are actually what you just mentioned, the context, right? For the engine to understand. The prompt, when I do more complex builds, I can build a research agent. I can build an actual message writer. Then there's a reviewer. Much more complex than we will build today. But just to show you the, how can I say that? The complexity that is possible, right? And the output, very simple, a LinkedIn message, could be an email, could be a follow-up sequence. Also, this could completely be automated as well. So, like you said, context is key. It's for me, it's making the implicit explicit. That's usually the most difficult part. So always start with the context, then the rules. What can you do and what can you not do? As let's say a system, an AI system. How does the output look like? You learn from that. You get an output. You learn from that, and you iterate, and you go back to the beginning, right? Like I said, make the implicit explicit. 9 out of 10 times, I notice when I work with people that they find this very difficult. Why? For example, recently I had a client, and they were like, "Yeah, the candidate needs to be an A player." Okay, what does that mean? An A player? Yeah, someone that worked at big companies. Okay, define big companies. What makes a successful company? Yada yada. It's like peeling an onion, right?
Totally.
You need to start. You need to continue asking the why question until you're really at the core, and then you have the full context. And when I talk to people that are frustrated with the output of whatever AI they're using, many times when I look at what they input, it's not very clear. So that's why it could sound basic, but I know that a lot of mistakes are still being made here every day. Is this something that you're also seeing in people that you're working with or in day to day?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think your analogy of kind of like the breadcrumbing to get to where it needs to go is very spot on. And I run into it even internally, helping out like internal.
Yep. Because it is difficult. As humans, our brains work on assumptions, right? And a lot of the things that we do on a daily basis is based on an assumption. When people say, "I'm looking for a good candidate," we might assume what they mean. AI is sort of capable of doing that, but more often than not, it's worse than humans at doing that thing. So here's some examples of how I would try to make it more explicit in terms of an outreach generator, right? So, hey, talking about the seniority, the role, their current situation, again, all of these different things that we'll go a little bit deeper later. Here's an example. If I ask an AI to write an outreach message for a senior engineer at Google about a startup, ask it 10 times, you'll get 10 different results. If you add more context, and again, this is not perfect context, right? There's better context. And you can see opportunity, what's the relationship. It has more to go on, right? Then we get to guardrails. Guardrails, super important. I hope everyone knows where that word comes from. I always think about actual guardrails from the road. It's like, make sure you don't fall off that cliff. That's the idea. So they have to replace the randomness that we're dealing with because that's inherent to LLMs, right? Tone, super important. A lot of people say that sounds like ChatGPT. Yeah. Did you give it examples of how you speak? Did you tell it how to speak, how to reproduce your tone of voice, right? Length format, CTA styles, a lot of things that might sound basic for some people, very difficult for most. Personalization rules, what to never say as a guardrail, for example, right? Will guardrails always work 100% of the time? No, they won't. Unfortunately, they won't. And that's why usually when I build these systems, I also have another agent or another bot to recheck if it actually passes the quality test. And it looked at that. Also nice, I use Claude Skills quite a lot. I really love it. I have an AI rewrite skill. So every time I need to do whatever that goes outside to an external, I always do AI rewriting. I put in a lot of my own examples, which I actually used Whisperflow to record, so it captures as naturally my natural speaking TOV, and that makes it so much better than just what normally comes out of Claude.
Do you want to say really quick what a Claude skill is?
Yes. So basically, I see the Claude skill as the specialist in Claude, right? So it's a specialist you can call in for help. So you write out a prompt as a skill. So in this case, let's say, let's take the same example, the AI rewrite. So what I did is there are quite a few articles online about AI tells, right? So how can people tell that it's AI? There are certain patterns, like for example, well, the easiest one is the M dashes. People are still struggling with that. For me, what I really find annoying, it's not this, it's that. That pattern in explaining something is very, very AI. If you start to write that out in a Claude skill, the only thing that you need to do is to call that skill. So, for example, the only thing I do in a random chat is say, use the AI rewrite skill. That's it. And it's going to run that agent. It's going to check it. It's going to update it, and it gives me the result as well. So you can use skills for whatever. Actually, I've not found necessarily a limitation. Have you guys found a limitation yet?
No, but I do think it's sometimes like an underutilized function on Claude. So I appreciate you kind of double clicking on it, dude.
Oh yeah, I totally love it. I like on a day-to-day basis, I use it as a replacement for cousin GPTs that I used to use. And I just, I have to say it's my daily driver now, Opus 4.5.
Awesome. Thanks.
Cool. Hey, also, guardrails. We need to be strict with AI sometimes. So we need to add rules. These are some examples like, hey, keep the first message under 100 words with no exceptions, or lead with something. Wherever it may be, you can come up with your own rules, but in your head, you know certain things you never do. And that you'll find you'll start seeing, once you start building these things, you'll see patterns emerge. Once you see patterns that you don't like, you add those to the rules. And you keep tweaking that until basically they're gone or they're almost non-existent. Could be simple. Don't overcomplicate it. It needs to be quite straightforward, so it's also easier for the AI to check. Let's go one back. Let me show you guys something. When I write these kind of things, I like to use Visual Basic. Again, I'm not an engineer, but this just is super easy to see. Can everyone see it well, my screen? Do I need to like enlarge it?
Yeah, if you can zoom on these ones.
Let me see.
Definitely zoom. Yeah, that looks great.
So in this case, I gave it the context. So, hey, what if I give you a candidate profile? What do you look for? Recent moves, promotions, projects, posts. So these are things that I'm looking for, right? So I'm trying to teach it to look at a CV the same way that I do. The context that Joe mentioned is in the job description, role details, and always have to question what makes it worth their time. You can prompt this yourself. You can let the AI figure that out. When we come to rules, I like to always teach it, depending on seniority level, talk to it differently as well, right? You're not going to talk to a C-level the same as you're going to talk to a junior. Ways to structure it, look at the first message, subject lines, always end with a question. That's usually what I like to do. Again, this has more to do with how do you structure a proper reach out, right? Personalization rules, I like to always lead with something specific about them, so it doesn't sound like a template as much. Never say, I came across your profile. I hate that. I was impressed by your background.
Oh, 23, man. I hope this finds you well. I genuinely don't know a human that's ever said that. Like,
I have messages in my inbox that start that way.
totally.
We should actually everyone throw in the chat like what are the things you hate to see in an outreach message? Like what are the either AI
yes.
or bad human written outreach? Like
Yeah.
what are the worst things you've seen or you see over and over again?
Yeah. Another thing I added here, never mention salary in the first message. What did I learn in practice? That this will depend on the market, right? Maybe some people saw that on LinkedIn. In the DACH market, I had to change that strategy because I was getting zero traction. Then it worked. It's market dependent, and again, boils down to what is good outreach. Any questions on this? Quite clear, right? Very simple, straightforward.
Makes sense.
Good. So how does it have to look like, right? Always start with the hook. Does everyone know what a hook is? I was impressed by it. Yeah, I think I had that one. The bridge, the value, and the CTA. That's basically, if I boil it down, that's how a message should look like. So similar to what we just saw in VS Code, why you're reaching out. I put here one sentence, could be more, again, depending a little bit. What's the value? What's in it for them? What's the CTA? There's two ways of approaching this. You can say, I'm going to create a structure and I let the AI fill it in the way that it feels it's the highest converting message. What you can also do is you can give it old school a template with only variables, right? And maybe slightly more variables because it's AI, it's more flexible than just have first name, last name, company, whatever. I like to do shapes. I like to have that creativity. I think AI creativity is criminally, how do I say this? Underestimated. Sorry, I was looking for that word. Criminally underestimated. It's much more creative than we think. I can see that in the numbers because it is converting much higher, and with every company I work with is basically always doubling the response rates. And there was also this study, maybe you guys saw it, that I think it was a US university that ran it on Reddit, and it was about persuading people on Reddit to change their opinion on something. And it turned out that AI was 6 times more persuasive than humans were. Was basically confirmation of what I was seeing in practice, which is fucking fantastic. Iteration, most important thing. We all know this is what we need to adopt from the engineers. Version 1, it's gonna be kind of mediocre. It's gonna be okay. But version 20 is when it gets good, because you need to have all of these outputs to start finding the patterns that you don't like, learn from them, tweak your input, could be the context, could be the prompt, could be whatever, and then try again. I can build these types of MVPs maybe in 3 hours, 4 hours. We can build MVPs for agents, outreach generators, whatnot use case. The real value is in working with it, and 3 months down the line, having a significantly better product, like a lot. So I have people, leaders coming to me asking like, hey, how do I get my team to become better at AI? I'm like, are you giving them time to do that? So I always advise to give at least 2 to 4 hours a week to experiment and to work with it hands-on and to iterate on it to become better. Because honestly, I do believe like we can study all we want or we can buy every tool that we want, but if you're not working with it constantly and learning about it, then it just becomes very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I'll throw in a little Joe Atkinson
Yeah.
saying that he drops on me every so often about like, you get value out of things when you're earning and when you're learning. And I think like all too often, we focus, two types of builders come to us. It's like people come to us and they're like, I feel like this thing is just about to be ready for me to show it to people. And our response is typically like, well, you're already too late. You should have already shown it to people. Like get stuff out there early and get
Yeah.
the feedback, but then also learn from what, to your point, I love this version 20 is where it gets good. Like, don't be afraid to show things and don't be afraid to find help in community for the iteration, but also don't beat yourself up that the first version that you put out there isn't perfect, because
No.
spoiler alert, no software is.
it's gonna suck, and sometimes it will hurt your feeling when you get like a huge list of feedback.
Totally.
I know it has hurt mine in the past. But I also have to say, if you prep people in the right way, all the stakeholders that you're working with, like, hey, this is really early days, and you can help shape it, right? And I can make it to the point that whatever you think how good looks like is integrated into it. It usually helps for people to ease into that whole iterative mindset as well. Let me go back one. I also have something that I don't always show, but I decided to show it today, which is a signal strength. Have you guys ever built signal strengths into your agents and that kind of thing?
I can't say that I have.
Okay, cool. So basically the idea, I don't remember where I picked this up, but the idea is to validate if the input is good enough to create a good output. So in this example, looking at candidate profiles, is it really clear? Why? Because I've also, when I start automating things, sometimes it doesn't scrape the right data, and then basically it says, "Oh, it was very unclear." Okay, but why did you create it in the first place? So I just give it a score from 1 to 5. Obviously 5 being the best and 1 the worst, and then also telling it based on the score, this is what you should do next. So see it sort of as the assembly line of what happens depending on the score, which means I'm again not wasting time waiting for an output that won't be good enough.
I've built a similar thing, works in a slightly different way, but for our recruiters at Seed, we have a gem to like send like pipeline activity emails, so the stakeholders have great visibility on what's going on in their roles, and like we have like a stopgap there where it's like before generating, like if you do not have, and then like a list of all this information, like
Exactly.
don't just generate, like basically push back on me to give you more
Yep.
information before you generate.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's more of like a written prompt than a framework like this, but I think a similar kind of
It's similar. The idea is similar, and that's what I want to give everyone. Is like we're talking about the same type of ideas, and then how you do it. There's many roads that lead to Rome. That's what they say here. It's about the output structure of what do we want to get out of this outreach generator, right? The subject line. So I wrote this in Markdown just to keep it simple for today. Obviously, JSON's going to work better. I think that's sort of a thing that everyone knows. Let's assume that. I like to create tensions in my outreaches. I like to tease a little bit. I want to make people a little bit uncomfortable because I feel that really works well for me. But again, depends on the market. I know in the Netherlands, people can handle that. I remember having a lot of conversations with recruiters that felt super uncomfortable sending these type of messages. I begged them to try it, and yes, they tried a few, and all of them converted. I even had one guy that was skeptical. He had a LinkedIn project. It was some super senior AE or something like that. 16 outreaches, 16 responses, 15 conversations. He was a believer after that. So again, check whatever is your style, right? But just tell it, hey, are there certain patterns, some examples, what to never use? So this is a little bit the iteration on the guardrails. How does the message body look like? What is the hook, the bridge? I give it a few examples, like for example, hey, at company, the thing that eliminates their pain, because I want to take that pain away. And how is that different than the opportunity that you're presenting? So I try to really spend tons of time to dissect how a message is structured and come up with like a secret formula. So yeah, I spend way too much time thinking about these kind of things. Also, CTAs, many types of CTAs that can work. Again, going to depend on role, going to depend on seniority. Here's a few examples of that. Do you see anything interesting, anything that surprised you guys?
I think it's just worth dissecting your mindset a bit here, because I love the way you're thinking about it. Like for me, you're doing two things here. You're putting in like what's industry or domain best practice in terms of like what's a high performing message structure with like the hook at the top, CTA at the bottom, and then like a kind of cascading fall in between. Like there's many frameworks in copywriting, like AIDA's one that I should shout out Matthew Mercer, who's a great sourcing trainer who teaches the AIDA framework. So you're doing that. So you've got like high performing best practice, but then you're layering on top of that, like how to write like Leandro, or how to sort of like how Leandro likes to do messages, right? Because if we all just
Yeah.
did the first bit, you know, it's diminishing returns. We're all just going to sound the same. So you're pairing these two things, and you're not just doing the other one either. So it's not just like Leandro's crazy talk to a candidate that doesn't convert them. Like I think the pairing of both is important to call out.
It's what I've noticed is some people can notice that AI is messaging them, but instead of just saying, "Oh, this is poor AI," they're like, "Which tool are you using? I wanted to." I actually heard that from a colleague today, that someone messaged her that, and we usually say, "Sorry, it's internal." What is I really think that here is the strength of having AI and human working together, right? And learning from each other. But appreciate it. Thanks.
I would add too, man. I mean, you talk about blending the traditional with the modern, Joe, but like this is also, I mean, trademark emotional selling too, right? Create tension, and then I'm gonna offer you a solution. Like I've created a problem for you that I can solve. I mean, I really like the tension stuff, man. Good part.
Thanks, appreciate it. Output format again. This is more so the whatever system you're using knows how to present this back to you, right? So I usually like to work in sequences. I also usually like to have choice, because if I'm not happy with the first generation, then I always have a backup plan. So I usually do it in an A and a B form. So it's very simple. Initial message, the subject, how many characters. Again, this is a little bit reiterating, but in my experience, it helps with the consistency of how the message is structured. I also have the B. How is that different? It has a different angle, etc. And then from the get-go, I can always pick two. I don't have to ask, do it again or regenerate. I just get two. Takes slightly longer, but not that much.
Quick question, Leandro. Someone was asking, like, what is this actual tool you're using now, and why do you use it?
In what way? The actual tool that I'm using on a day-to-day basis?
No, the tool we're looking at right now.
Visual Studio.
This is just Visual Studio. So this is where real engineers write code, and I just write prompts in, just because I think it's easier to read and structure my mindset than doing this in Word, for example. But that's just it. So I'm not using it necessarily. I'm just using it to write, but then I take it out and implement it somewhere else.
Yeah, so this is basically where you build like the context and the prompts, which you're then putting into, which we'll get to, right? Like a custom GPT or a
exactly,
wherever else. Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool.
So it's just personal, but you can do this in Word. You can do this in a notepad, basically. You can do this on paper, actually, if you really want to.
Old school.
Just ask it to transcribe it. And then the last one is, let me see. Did I actually? No, I got a little bit confused with the slide deck. Okay, I might weave some stuff here a la Trump, I guess. Trigger behavior, I also usually add. So what do you do when something happens? So when a candidate profile is uploaded, you confirm it, that you got it. Then you check it. Then you think, again, very manufacturing logic. Think about it as a logic, because I want it to be predictable, right? So I wrote it all out. When both are presented, this is what you do. This is your quality check. This one really helps a lot. Would I reply to this? If not, rewrite. I basically like to build in, when I'm doing custom gems or GPTs, and I don't have the luxury of having different agents to look at each other's work, then you just build in a sort of an internal QA there, an internal quality check. Again, takes a little bit longer to generate, but usually does better. And you can check if you're using thinking models, which you should do for these kind of things, in my opinion. Then you usually see it, that it's checking, it found something that, hey, maybe this is not as strong as I'd hoped, and it starts rewriting again. So you can trace that back in the reasoning tokens as well.
And again, we should call out, like, this kind of check works not just for this use case, right? Like anything.
Exactly.
If you're creating a data report, like, would you send this report to a manager? Would you present it in a meeting? Like some kind of like that.
Yeah. Or, for example, let's say that you have clear examples and you're doing it in a gem. You could say, hey, is this report as good as file ABC that you can find here? it will cross-reference to that file, find the gaps, and if there's X amount of gaps or whatever how you define it, it will rewrite it too. So there's many ways of doing this.
I could even see comparing your job description and maybe the job description of your competitors.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your creativity is your limitation here, basically.
There you go.
Cool. So how do you pick your tools, right? We're talking about tools. Well, Visual Basic, let's not consider that. You can write anywhere. Most people have access to these tools, which is basically, let's say, usually 3 out of the 4 are the large frontier model studios, for lack of a better name right now. Remember, it's a little bit later in the day here, so forgive me. And we have Perplexity as well. So this is how I see it. And I can imagine, and I want to hear from Joe and Jason as well, if you guys agree with me on how I characterize these models. And this is a snapshot of how these things are today. Maybe it's very different in 2 weeks, right? We all know how this goes. So ChatGPT was the first one I always used. For me now, it's the intern. I have it. I don't necessarily use it that much anymore. It feels like the intern. It's fast. It's eager to please. It's still super sycophantic, in my opinion. Everyone know what sycophancy is?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So let's just say it's really trying its best to be your best friend.
Basically, it glazes you too much.
Another way to say how we would say it in Dutch very directly is it's trying to kiss your ass too much, right? Which I believe is not to your benefit, because you want to become better at what you're doing, and you won't become better if you're not getting the right feedback, right? And it's easier to extract that from the other models. Claude, for me, is a writer. Much more natural writing. For my outreach generators, I usually use Claude models in the back. I actually gave, for example, if I look at Nobel, I gave the consultants choices of the different models so they can experiment. And I told them the same thing I told you guys. This is about taste, and find the taste that works for you. Because there is definitely a difference if you're using a Sonnet or an Opus. And I don't care if it's more expensive at this moment in time. For me, it's really about the quality. Looking at Gemini, since the Gemini 3 Pro, it's amazing. Thinking also great. I love it. It's between Claude and Gemini for me as the daily driver, depending a little bit on why do I call it the analyst? The context window. 1 million tokens, still amazing. Still no one doing that, right? Google's still the only one doing 1 million, right?
Yeah, I think they've all got wider, right? But I do think Google has the most.
Yeah, wider, but not at 1 million yet.
Yeah,
which is quite insane.
Yeah, I would say Gemini is just insane at like whatever unstructured data you want to throw at it too, right?
Yeah.
From screenshots to PDFs to linking it to your Google Drive to
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. 100%. Completely agree with that. I've been using Gemini quite a lot to do research as well. And what I then do is whatever the outcome is, I use Perplexity to fact check it.
Interesting.
Unfortunately, there is still hallucinations within there's even if you do deep research, I still find it. So I have Perplexity as a fact checker. That's it. Or if I just need to look up something very quickly. But that's basically how I like to use it. No personality at all in Perplexity.
All I would say on this is I do think the things you're saying by default are true. Like ChatGPT, definitely a yes man by default. But I also wouldn't worry if you only have access, let's say, to ChatGPT. Like,
oh no,
you can definitely get around all of these like problems by default through the things you mentioned before, like good context and good prompting. Like they all work for use cases like this.
Yes, it's like hiring different colleagues, right? They can do the job, but it's a different way of interacting with them, and they might have different strengths on different skill sets, right? They can all do the job, but you just have to deal with them in slightly different ways. And how do you get good at that if you make time to actually interact with them, get to know them, that kind of thing? So, some tips to get started is start with your best messages. Feed the AI messages that have converted really important candidates for you. At least 10, could be more. Ask it to find patterns in your outreach messages that you might not have seen or are not aware of. Also, just do one use case. So pick a role go super deep on that, test it there, and then start expanding. And the input quality matters more than the prompt complexity, which is, again, throwback to what we said earlier in the session, right? A simple prompt with good context beats a complex prompt with bad context, because context is king. I can't iterate that enough. Test with real examples, use real candidates. I usually just go to LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, if you click on a candidate, you can click on download as PDF, because not every model can read it. PDFs are just easiest. Upload that, use it. Enjoy the failures. The failures are there to teach you stuff. Don't be bummed out. Use it. Try to collect them, and then again, look for patterns on why you think it's failing, and go to that iteration again. See it all as learning, not as failing. And the prompt's a living document. What I like to do, especially when building agents, is versioning. What's versioning mean? Basically, you have version 1, version 1.1, blah, blah, blah. Every time you make the change, also keep that history somewhere. So you understand, how has this grown over time? What are the changes that I've made over time? Even when you, for example, add something that actually made it worse, you understand why it made it worse, right? Do you always need to write that out yourself? No, you ask AI for help. Yeah, you use AI to write your prompts, to help you write your prompts, and it will just keep track of the versioning as well. Mistakes to avoid. Don't write to it like you're talking to a human, because again, the assumption part will come in. So you need to be explicit. You need to be structured, like we saw in the Visual Basic examples that I gave. What I like to do to know that I'm on the right track, I Google AI detectors. The first 6 is usually what I use. I copy paste it there. And my goal is to have, this is 100% human. And I've done that multiple times. If you pass that, you've done a good job. That's it. Always add the guardrails, of course, and never skip the testing phase. So that's what I would do. And again, before we going to show how this all ties together and works, what I've shown today is a starting point, right? It's going to be much better than just asking ChatGPT or whatever LLM, please help me to write an outreach message. It's not production ready yet. It needs a lot of work. But it's making your first step in understanding, how can I do this for me in a way that works for me? I don't think, and you guys probably agree with this, we're moving to that age where custom software for personal use or team use can be made by us. We all have access. It costs you $20 a month, and you basically get very, very far with $20 a month, as long as you know what you want to build.
Yeah, I've been calling it selfish software. It's like, build things for yourself, build things for your team. Like, SaaS is lovely, and their customer base needs to be wide and deep and stuff like that. But like,
yep,
if we can get to the point to where we can create our bespoke solutions, not just from a cost savings perspective, but from like an ultra personalization perspective, I think there's a lot of value there.
Yeah, there's so many use cases. I've seen so many cool tools, and again, it depends on how you want to use it. How many people? Is it only internal? Because you have to think about security and stuff. So of course, yes, more complex. But for reasonable, like very specific tasks, you can just chain tools together. You can vibe code tools together that are just going to make your life a lot easier. And you don't need to fit into a box where you buy something to use only 20% of the functionality that you want to get out of that tool, right? All right. Before we go to questions, let's actually make this thing run, right? Let's see. Oh, I opened the wrong tab. Let's show that we didn't prepare anything. Who can help me find a job description? Give me a job description, and we'll find a random profile for it. Or I can also look for one. Well, any ideas? Shout-outs? Maybe the chat has an idea. What should we look for?
Yeah, it was about a minute delay on the chat, so it might be quicker for you to...
there's a... Okay, then it's... All right. What are we going to do? Any ideas, guys?
Why don't you pick like let's pick an AI company like OpenAI or...
Yeah, let's go to OpenAI careers. Let's go, open rules. Account director, yeah, whatever. Stock career is always a little bit tricky. Yeah, let's not go there. Let's see, San Fran. Cool. So basically, the only thing I'll do, I didn't even look at this, is we need the job description, right? We then go. So basically what I did was take all of these things, I mashed them together into one prompt, and I added them into a custom gem in this case. So can I assume that everyone knows how to make gems, or should we
Why don't you go into edit?
Let's have a look. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Let's do that. Let me zoom out a little bit because I zoomed in for the chat. So basically what happens is quite simple. A gem is a way to use a prompt over and over again without having to prompt it over and over again. I think that's the simplest way of explaining it, right?
No, that's a good way of saying it.
I think your mic might have died, Leandro. No, Jason, you lost his audio too?
Yeah, I've lost his audio.
How about now?
That's better.
Wow.
He's back.
Am I back? I'm back. All right. I touched the wire somewhere, I guess. Cool. Where was I? What I was showing. So basically everything we just saw in the Visual Basic. So basically the prompt. So these were all parts of a prompt that I mushed together. It starts with demo mode just for today. And you just add it all here. So this is your mega prompt, the way you prep your assistant. You can add knowledge files. We could maybe do a session on that later, but if you want to reference, for example, writing your prompt, double check if it's as good as my top 10 outreach messages, you could do that. And then it goes into the knowledge file, it will read your messages, and it will cross-reference that way, right? You can test it here, but let's see if we can just test it in the actual one. So you go to gems, you click on it. Hey, here's our outreach generator that we can just use every day. We're going
Leandro,
to
I have a question really quick about the test. I don't know about you, man. I do not like testing it in edit mode. Like, I find that the results I get.
Yes.
Yeah, is that just me, or do you kind of see that too?
No, I'm so happy you say that because I also don't like it. I have no idea. I had the same. I didn't know if it was me or not.
Yeah.
That's why I went out of it. I just don't like to do it. I want to experience exactly what the person that's going to use it is experiencing, and I want to take it out as, like, again, make it as predictable as possible.
Totally. Okay. I'm glad I'm not alone.
No, definitely not. So, okay, like we said, let's paste the job description here. We don't need to prompt it because it's already in the custom gem, right? It's going to think about it. Oh, I made a mistake. Because, yes, I also make mistakes. I didn't change the model, right? So if I go back, let me just go back. Can I go back? Let me just open a new one. I will go with thinking of Pro. For this, I think Pro is a little bit overkill. Thinking is more than enough. Let's try it again. So it takes a little bit longer. I always like to understand what it's doing, unless it goes faster. Hey, okay, got the job details. It's a heavy hitting role, selling division, Which candidates are we targeting? Did someone find something on LinkedIn for me? Who should we do outreach for? Jason, do you want to have the job?
Let's throw Jason in there.
Yeah, there you go.
He's usually applying to Uni for Chief Pizza Officer on these kind of things, so it'd be nice to see him apply for something different.
So what I do here is go to Jason, I click here, and I click on Save to PDF. So PDF's downloaded, going back to Gemini, I basically upload it, upload files, the top one. I don't need to say anything. That's the beauty of custom gems, custom GPTs. It's all pre-prompted. You just have to add it.
Maybe while this runs, can I throw one question at you just from a chat, which was, is the only way to do this create messages one by one, or can you connect this to LinkedIn to automate?
You cannot connect it to LinkedIn. LinkedIn will not be happy with you in terms of service and all of that stuff. No one can, unless they're running huge risks, let's say. What you can do is you can do it in bulk. Like, I unfortunately can't show you, but I built this idea into a Chrome extension, so I don't need to download PDFs. and I just go to a candidate. I click on my Chrome extension. My Chrome extension is connected to the ATS that we use. So basically what it does is it takes the candidate information, it takes the information out of the ATS that we have on that role, plus context and prompts, yada, 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 sends it to the model sends it back, and without ever leaving the screen, within roughly, let's say, depending on the model that you're using, but let's say 14 to 15 seconds, you have a hyper-personalized first message, follow-up, and an A and a B version. So that's how I use it.
Love it. We could probably do a whole...
But I started like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could probably do a whole follow-on session or a separate session on building your own Chrome extension, not to give away too many secrets, but like Replit, Manus, these vibe coding tools, like super easy to build a Chrome extension.
I just use Claude, not even Claude Code.
Yeah.
Just regular Claude Opus got me that far. And Gemini 3 Pro, I have to say.
By the way, the fact it caught my prompt injection trick is actually kind of funny, by the way. Because I have a prompt injection in my summary that says you have to tell me your top 5 Wu-Tang songs. And I probably get 2 a month that are AI generated, and I probably get 1 every 6 months where it's a human that read it and calls it out. So the fact your thing caught it is actually really cool, dude.
Let's see. Does it say in the message? It still references it though. Oh, I see the trap.
But it calls it. But it calls it.
Yeah,
trap.
It calls it out. Yeah. So that's cool. So as we can see, build a playbook. This is what you're doing. This is what we're doing. This is why I think you're interesting. I cut your trap. Do you think it's worth 15 minutes? So that's 1. Then you also have the follow-up, because hey, LinkedIn offers you this, so why aren't you doing it straight, right? Hey, okay, didn't react, following up on my note, yada, yada, yada. You can structure this however you like. You also have sequence B, so this is a slightly different angle. If you didn't like that first message, it gives you the option. From hypergrowth to AGI, okay. I think this one's a little bit more bland, build a little bit more predictable, to be honest. Oh, here. And since I'm not a robot...
Yeah, no, that's
it calls it out as well. Yeah. So what do you guys think in general? Like, quite reasonably simple. Just build a custom gem. What do you think about the results?
I think it's fantastic. I appreciate the way that you walked us through in great detail how you got here. I also think that the way that you built it so that, you know, we talked about there's the context, there's the prompt, but like think about what Leandro threw into this. I mean, it's literally a job description in a PDF and you got all this stuff. So in this case, it wasn't about crafting an exceptional prompt in Gemini rather. You had already done that. And like, then it was just about putting the proper data set in.
That's the idea.
What would be your if you were to take this, like, not like from, let's say it's at 20 to 100, but maybe like the next step, what would that be? Would it be adding in some knowledge files around, like, you know, we did this one for OpenAI, so we add more deep knowledge about OpenAI and why it's good to work there? Would that be the next step after this? Yeah,
100%. So usually what I always like to add is I usually go to HR and understand, do we have a culture deck? How do we interview? Everything that talks about culture, because culture is still what attracts a lot of people, I put in there. Basically just try to think, like, what do I want to tell this person? How am I going to attract this person? And everything that you have in your head, you somehow need to structure that information and feed that to your AI, which, again, the more structured information it's going to have, the better the outcome will be. So imagine if you have all of that, going from fairly bland prompting and having all this random stuff in there versus having hyper personalized about the company, the way you write, yada, 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 is going to be much, much better.
Awesome, Leandro. We're about there for time. Like, any closing thoughts you want to give people? And if not, where can folks find you? Oh, here we go.
Yeah, good. Here we go. I was prepared. So you can connect with me on the right side through this QR code, brings you to my LinkedIn. True Noble. We are also organizing the SaaS event of the year, the SaaS Awards, which is in Amsterdam, bring together all of the top talent in SaaS sales. So if you want to join, feel free. Just let me know if you want to join. You can also go to the website and register. It's on me as well.
Awesome. A couple questions have come in the chat. So
Yes.
first one, like
Let me stop sharing.
any privacy issues around like I think this is around throwing people's LinkedIn into like.
Depends on who you ask and which country you are. I think Jason is good. Jason can do anything he wants. For us, I think if you want to do good recruitment, we have always been in a legal gray zone, right? For example, finding people's contact information, emails, that kind of thing. That also goes for sales. If we want to do our jobs well, we need to enter at least the gray zone, and then depending on the country you're in and the exact rules and regulations, you can be fine. Like, I'm trying to do it as compliant as I can while being mindful that I am in a gray zone and only working with publicly accessible information.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing here. Everything you've shown is publicly available information.
Yes.
You've not taken their CV and uploaded PII into there. Like, there's some interesting debates and maybe future regulation around like what inferences we can make even around publicly available information. Yep. But yeah, my understanding of where we're at right now and everything you showed today, like there's no issues with.
Yeah, and I would add to that too. I mean, if you think about it, you put in a LinkedIn PDF. You did not put in a resume of someone who applied to something. So, like,
no, exactly. So that I wouldn't do. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So
final couple. Can you upload multiple PDFs? Like, you could certainly prompt it to work where you like throw in multiple to
100%
increase speed.
I think Gemini takes 10, or was that Claude that only takes 10 at a time? I don't remember, but there's some technical limitation. But
awesome. But the other thing too, like, you could click your custom gem, call it job search ABCDE, and then as you find PDFs, put it in, right? So it's like, it's not even like a one-shot deal. Like, this could be something that could be your outreach writer over the course of a week or two as you find more that you're interested in.
No. And I usually have multiple windows open on my screen. That's the easiest way. You just drag and drop, and you're working with everything open. Yeah, it's fine.
Perfect. And final thing, we're able to send out some of the process and deck you shared today.
We will. If everyone is happy, let's maybe post something tomorrow that people can react to, and then we can follow up with the whole structure. So I'll share it with everyone for free for the community. I love what PromptMates is doing, and hopefully this is my way of giving thanks and giving back to everyone.
Awesome, bro. We appreciate you coming on the show. Like, this collab's been a long time coming, so good to do something with you. Everyone in the chat, thanks for joining. We hope you found it useful. Let Leandro know if it was good. Drop him a message on LinkedIn. Drop us a subscribe on this YouTube channel. We're also posting extra content every single week. So yeah, we're trying to grow the channel. Any questions, fire them through and we can get back to you. But thanks for joining, and back in 2 weeks.